Okay, well, I'd like to give you a bit of an overview of what's going on and who we are. And so some of you may know this, some may be a repeat for you. But this show, there are 7 artists here today, and we are all members of the SciArt Santa Fe, Science Art Santa Fe. It is a network of scientists, of artists who interface science with their creative process. And it's been my interest practically since high school when I declared I was going to get a major in science and a minor in art. However, I did that. But I had no idea what would happen in my life. At any rate, I was brought together with Andrea Poli. The Santa Fe Institute is where I went when I wanted to meet more people that shared my interest. And so they introduced me to Andrea Poli. Who knows Andrea Poli? Does anyone? Yeah? Of course you guys do. All right. Well, she's a very remarkable professor at UNM, and it would take at least an hour to tell about what she's up to. Am I right about that, Morgan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it would take up our entire time. But she's phenomenal, and I feel very blessed to be working with her. And so Andrea and I started this SciArt Santa Fe network about 3 years ago. And then the pandemic hit, so we were scheduled for a show 2 years ago. And this is the first time we've been able to have a real art show based on our group since the pandemic. So thank you, and if anyone wants to wear a mask, I'm not going to wear one because I have to speak. But I think most of us are all boosted and shot and boosted, isn't that how you say? Anyway, Santa Fe has been designated a Leonardo affiliate city.
Oh.
And we did that through the Science and Art Network and Andrea mostly. So we are part of a global network. And to me it's very exciting. We have easy access to the other SciArt groups in the United States, but there's 48 all over the world. So I like to think of Leonardo being here with us today. And they gave a name for the kind of talk that we're about to hear here. Leonardo Art Science Rendezvous. Laser. And as I said, I don't approve of it, that nobody asked me about the anachronism. At any rate, Leonardo said, these gatherings should be relaxed and conversational. You will have a chance to ask questions, and I want you to know, if things move along here, if you have a really burning question, just raise your hand. I don't mind stopping. Because I've been in your position often, or I can't wait to find something. I have to wait to the end, right? So we will give you a signal when it's 4 o'clock. We promised that our talk would be 3 to 4, but we got a little late start. So if you have got a schedule and you have to leave, I'm sorry we started late, but just get up and go. It's certainly part of the plan here for you. What I wanted to do today is to start, well, first of all, I have to tell you that photography has been one of my interests and media ever since the 70s. So way back then, I got my first class 3 weeks at one segment at the Haystack Mountain School of Crafts. Anybody ever heard of that in Deer Island? Anyway, it's one of the major craft schools in the country. And I've evolved after studying printing and studying the digital and taking Photoshop. Then I discovered the iPhone. So all of the photos photography you see here today is with my iPhone camera, just so you know. So I want you to start out with how I got excited. All right, I walked in the door, and a larger version of this metal powder-coated sculpture was on the floor of my studio. Now the floor of my studio is that fake wood, you know, so it's really a shiny finish. It's supposed to look like wood, right? So I walk in the door and look at this. I'm shocked at the radiant, fiery light. And I thought, well, what is going on here? So Paul, show us one more of that. So this is
skate first?
Yeah.
well, generally speaking, we're doing an overview about light and art, all right? In all different ways.
Probably the wrong way to do it.
That's good. So, I don't know about you, but when something like that hits me, all kinds of sparks go off in my head, and I think, oh my God, I gotta find out what this is about. And I do think that happens to most artists. You're just cooking along on something, and then something jumps up at you, and it's astonishing, and you've got to figure it out in your curiosity. So that's how I get to science. So then I said, well, what's going on with the light here, you know? And so I said, well, all right, the sunlight is bouncing off and shiny powder coating. Y'all know powder coating is really, you know, shiny and stuck on there, whatever. And so we're looking at reflected light, and it's sunlight. So go on, let's see what, so then I thought, well, how else can we look at this? Now the walls in my studio are white. So that's one of my spirals reflected on the wall. So it's not as fiery as on that shiny floor, right? It's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, it's like a comic show almost. And then look in the corner, see that sort of lavender? Keep going.
Keep going?
Yeah. I'm just showing you the reflected light that I was able to, okay, so obviously the copper spiral is right in front, and everything behind is that wonderful reflection again. Now the one that's coming up is the one right here. You know, it's true, I think that the colors are more vibrant on the screen than they would have been on the wall. So, yeah, so thanks, Paul. Now, I want you to know, my friends, that I didn't plan this. I didn't say, oh, you know, let's do this and then do that. I happened to notice it. You know, the sun was moving around, and I ran and got my camera. But I don't know, I have never tried to really orchestrate these and to be precise. I'm going to this here, that, and so on. So
were these all taken on the same day and you just moved around, or?
No.
No, okay.
No, it's when it showed up.
Okay.
I think with the light, you just have to pay attention. You know, as a photographer, you know the old saying, the light waits for no one. You know that one? It gets me. Well, the next one is, it's this one. Now this one, you'll notice on the left-hand edge is the real sculpture. That's the copper. And everything else is reflection and shadow. Now, I don't think that's me. I don't know whose shadow that is. But it does look kind of like a human, doesn't it?
This is human
Oh, go back to the one you were on the wall. There, yeah. Now, the far right, I'm not sure where that one came from. But that's what I love about this. It's so unpredictable. And you just have to pay attention. Okay, Paul. The next row. Yeah, good. Okay, so now so then I started to pay attention to what I call the shape of light. So here we have this beautiful little, what do you call it? What does it look like to you at the bottom? You see, you've got a lot of shapes there that, it's reflection, of course, right?
There's a lady in there.
Huh? A lady?
Yeah, I see a lady.
Where?
She's been.
She got the big,
She's
see it
been
too.
down, touching the light.
Perhaps an octopus?
an octopus? Okay. Anything goes, you guys, what else is
That's the beauty of abstract art. X can equal anything. Anything your eye sees.
Right.
It almost looks liquid.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's why you
Huh.
Even the copper, the sculpture itself,
Yeah.
the piece up, you know, going from one end to the next in the air, looks like liquid to me, flowing.
So keep
Is
going.
this shadow or is this,
No, that's reflection.
is this shadow? I mean, this is reflection on the wall?
This is all the wall.
Okay. You don't mind if I ask a question?
Oh, no, I didn't introduce Paul, I'm sorry about it. Paul has been brought in to be my science anchor. He has a PhD in physics, and he's been a professor of physics for many years. However, Paul is still, on top of that, an artist, a poet, and an author. Beautiful. How about that? So, when I showed him some of the unusual colors that jumped on the aluminum sculpture, and I said, well, I want you to explain to us how that happened. And he said, Sue, I have no idea. I said, what? How's that possible? But I decided that's just fine, because science would shrivel up if we didn't have questions, right? If we didn't have mysteries. So it's an ongoing thing for me, so if any of you want to take this with you, I'm going to go into the color in a moment, so I won't say any more about it. Now just, go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead, you're just going to set one and a half.
Well, this is the colored glass group. I have sheets of colored glass, and I stood them, I made a little frame, and I stood them up. And then I had my white maquette, my white sculpture models, which were mostly rounded and, curvy and so on. And then I shot through the layers of colored glass. So the colored glass ones, that's pretty much how I did it. Whether, in my opinion, I keep going on the colored glass.
This is cool.
Well, that's really like on this sine wave sculpture right here. And I don't know how that intense will look up there, but now you can see the sculpture, right?
Is it all, is it all reflection, or are we seeing part of the sculpture coming in?
Oh, well, yes, the
Correct.
sculpture is the sine wave, the
Okay,
curve.
right.
And so I have one piece of metal on a water jet. I had water jet folks cut one line down the center, and then I took one of those and put it to right angles to the other. So so that the sculpture bounces off of itself. That's why you've got these, kind of.
This is kind of shadow, isn't it, right here?
Yeah, I think it is.
And as this is shadow,
Yeah.
but shadow's coming from maybe different areas.
So then you've got light coming from behind and from the front. I have no idea how. You see the lower part curves out, and then there are these different wedges of color. I have no idea how that happened. And as I said before, I didn't make it happen. It happened and I noticed it. Okay, Paul. I thought Paul was going to tell me all the science about it. You got anything to say there, Paul?
This is shadow right here, isn't it? Shadow on the metal, isn't it?
But why is it red?
Because the blue part of the spectrum is being blocked by whatever is making the shadow. Susan is our contemporary Goethe. Goethe did a lot of experiments with light. He had an opposite color theory to Newton. Newton analyzed light into various colors. White is made of basically a whole spectrum. I could show you later on if we have time. But Goethe really was working with perception and how we perceive light. And he, for one thing, can I show you? One thing is he would, instead of having light shine through a prism onto a screen, he held the prism up to his eye. And he said, like, you might show it on a white surface or on the sky. He might be looking at a white surface or the sky. And if a cloud came through and blocked the light, he would get a flash of colors. And his theory was that color was a combination of light and dark. But anyway, one of the experiment that really grabbed me was that he took a candlelight, and he had a pencil, and then he shined the candlelight past the pencil onto this white screen, and he looked at the shadow of the pencil, and you know what color candlelight is. He got blue. And the shadow of the pencil was blue. So this is why I say maybe somehow there was a shadow, something was blocking the light, and you get these various colors because whatever it is blocking various parts of the light spectrum. You have red, blue, green. If you block a lot of the greens, you're going to get reddish colors. If you block the red end of it, you get more greenish colors. This is also responsible.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of times.
Candlelight blue is coming. Well, so I was thinking, well, the polished aluminum, and this is sunlight, you guys. This is not artificial light. It's just natural light, okay? So that I saw it, you can tell me if I'm wrong, Paul, but the shiny aluminum absorbs light, and it also reflects light. So you've got energy going in and energy coming out. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, and basically it'll absorb certain frequencies of light and reflect others. That's the way a pigment works. And then for subtractive colors, a pigment might absorb all of the red or the red part of the spectrum, but it will reflect the bluish part, so you'll see blue color coming out. Yeah. What amazes me about this, Susan, is the intensity of the colors. How brilliant they are and how bright they are. They are, that's kind of, I'm not sure. You must have had very intense light coming in, that's all I can think of. But anyway.
Well, it was either coming into my kitchen
there's like another
or my studio. But while we're on that, so right now I'm thinking of the sine wave sculpture here. See, there's shadow and a certain amount of light, but there's no color on it. And people, when they first saw this work, would think that I had put that in Photoshop. Well, I probably could have, but I didn't. So I didn't even go over it with pastel or, the photograph or anything. So that's why I can really say it. These are phenomena of just natural sunlight, without my interference, you might say. Now this one is actually a video, but I don't know how to make it move, you guys. Move!
I don't think we recorded it as video.
Anyway, Paul, this is starting a group of photographs shot through color glass. Did we finish the ones? Okay. Well now, All right, let's stay with this, because, no.
Stay with
Well,
that.
that's true. No, the blue one would work. We can put that in the category of the shape of light. So that's the other thing I go hunting for. Or I pay attention, and there again, I guess just reflection, isn't it, Paul?
I don't know whether you,
Well, I mean, look at those shapes in there.
but were you had glass, right?
Glass.
And was the light coming through the glass to your camera, or was the light bouncing off the glass to your camera?
Probably both.
Yeah, probably. But
Yeah,
I'm
mine were
wondering
both.
but I'm wondering if the main source of light was behind the glass, that's all.
Well, I would say the main source was the sunlight.
And then was bouncing off the light.
Yeah.
So it's more reflection off the glass.
Anyway, let's
And probably
keep
some
going.
transmission bouncing off the
But you
wall.
see, there's some very interesting shapes in there.
Right.
And that's the thing that, I think any sculptor is fascinated by shape and form, Like I have this idea that I'm an authority on cowboy hats because of the shape. Anyway, keep going, Paul. Yeah, that's a sweet one, isn't it sweet? I look at that and say, that's really,
It's kind of the colors of Ukraine, the one before this.
really?
Yeah, the yellow and blue, gold and blue.
Yeah.
And you took these back in 2000, or when did you take these photos?
One of the things that have suffered through the pandemic is my sense of time. Was it 2 months ago? Was it 5 years ago? Was it last week? Does anyone else have that? Yeah. Anyway, so we've been here before, so let's keep going. Yeah, I think we've been through these. So we're not,
Did we do this one?
yeah, that's the
We talked about
reflection.
it.
Early on, actually. Just keep
I'd like to
going.
say something.
Yeah,
I think they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I think they help to see in everyday life the patterns of life. Like there's a certain time of day when the light comes in our dining room, and I'm just more aware of it. And I think art can help us just see it in everyday life, whether we photograph it or not, just the sheer beauty of it.
it's true. It's so true. Now, these are the shape of light, right? So it's the shape, not the color. And I happen to like this one. And I do know that piece. Do you know that piece of aluminum there? I know what the rest of it looks like. You guys don't. But, okay, Paul. Oh. So we're looking at the photography, and the one we're looking at right now is colored glass. And the light, the shape, is that I tend to make maquettes for my sculpture out of paper or cardboard, white. So that is, I have a lot of these, and many of them look kind of like Georgia O'Keeffe-ish, like a part of a flower or something. Okay, Paul, keep going in the same direction, see what we, can you see? Okay, we need to be up here.
I haven't seen that one before.
Oh, no, we
looks neat.
haven't.
Yeah.
Okay, now look at that. Where did that lazy color come from? You can't see. Is that a fly on the sculpture, or is that a fly on the? Oh.
Looks like the cursor, isn't it the cursor? No, it's the cursor.
Oh, good, I thought it was a fly. I thought the cursor was a fly. Now, one of the things I like so much here, you see that vertical red?
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
Now, this is the sculpture right
Yeah.
here, right?
It's right here, Paul.
Yeah, we're looking right down at the base.
Yeah, there's the base down here. So
Yeah.
this is the sculpture. And this is the opening of the sculpture.
Uh-huh.
The opening.
Yeah, it's the
And this
opening.
is the reflection on the wall.
So where was the light coming in that you got that? What out?
Well, that would be coming, you see the brightest light, so it would be coming like this, hitting that bright light. The red that's the The red is the other assignment looking through. Do you understand what I'm saying? Looking through. Yeah, okay, let's see. if
So it's
there's-
another piece of metal. Let's see if I can keep this.
Yeah,
See, these are new, we didn't see these.
so sometimes there isn't color, you know?
One question.
Well, it's just a different.
So Susan, were you using colored lights in that last one?
No outside color from me, all daylight.
Now, you took these at different times of day, so you have more reds sometimes and more
Well,
blues sometimes. and-
That's right, but you see, what's so important here is that I didn't plan this. Now, if I might say, okay, Sue, why don't you pay attention and say, okay, it's morning, it's from 10 to 12, the sun's coming in, are you getting any color? But I haven't documented it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, this is the documentation.
Well, I know, but I can't tell you
When you did it.
Right.
when I did it, or what the circumstances were. So, yeah,
This is a larger picture of that sculpture.
yeah.
Is that this
That's
sculpture?
sculpture, that's right.
There's also an issue around the camera itself, or whatever you're shooting from, because it's also a filter, you might say, the way it's
Would
taking
you
the shot.
lower that for just a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's so important
So,
what you say.
like, when I'm doing photography, and I shoot a shot that I think is looking a certain way, and then when it comes out, it's a little different. So there's also the camera itself, that or whatever photography equipment you're using.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
also
Yeah,
altering some of the
That's
color.
right.
Did you see this blue though, besides, I mean, when you look at it just without the camera? Do you remember seeing that blue?
Pretty intense, isn't that a bright blue?
Yeah.
I must have.
Here's
How
asking
could
a
I-
specific question. Did you see the blue in
You got-
your eyes?
Well,
I did, and I think that's why I took the picture.
Okay.
I said, oh,
That's good.
it's going on there, you
I
know?
have some fundamental questions about artistic process. You keep saying that you didn't do this, but you did. You noticed it, you cultivated it, and then the next step in art is you put it on the wall, and the people that look at it don't care how it was made. And if they concentrate on how it was made, you've made some artistic mistakes.
What do you think of what, all right, is it, am I being too analytical?
Well, you have to be, you're an artist, but there is a point where this arrives in somebody's home. They bought it because they really.
Also altering some of the
That's
color.
right.
Some fundamental questions about artistic process. You keep saying you didn't do this, but you did. You noticed it, you cultivated it, and then the next step in art is you put it on the wall, and the people that look at it don't care how it was made. And if they concentrate on how it was made, you've made some artistic mistakes.
What do you think of what, all right, is it, am I being too analytical?
Well, you have to be, you're an artist, but there is a point where this arrives in somebody's home. They bought it because they really like what it looks like. And it might, I'm primarily a composer. I stopped writing program notes.
Oh,
because I didn't want to
music is his
explain,
world, music.
well, music and art, but I stopped describing how I made it.
Take
Because
something
that
away.
distracts from the
Yeah,
thing.
take something away.
When we have what, 15 people here? If we were to see this in a gallery and then go out and have a conference, well, what did that say to you as your emotions, your memories, and things like that? There would be 15 different stories. And that is the power of art. Visual art doesn't, well, it works a little bit with poetry. Poetry has words, so it's more specific, but with music, particularly instrumental music, I've had experience in going and sitting in a concert with a friend. We go out at intermission, well, we start describing, we have completely different descriptions of the effect that music had on us with our memories, our experiences.
Perceptions.
Yes.
But you know, I would say that it's both. I mean, this is a SciArt group, so, you know, we tend to focus on both. And I would say, yeah, there's one appreciation where you just perceive it, you have a response to it. then there's another one where, and I think this may be true with music, you know, you could actually like listen to Brahms or Beethoven and stuff, you can actually just have that whole emotional response. But somebody who understands a little bit about music theory and the changes of chords would maybe get another, it's just another kind of experience, but they're still experiences. And I wouldn't even say it's on levels, they're just different experiences, you know.
Well, I have to separate myself from analysis. This is a bad thing for me as a trained musician, because I can't listen to music when I'm driving because I'm analyzing what was that chord progression, what was that variation that happened, and so I've had to kind of artificially separate myself from technique when I'm listening to a piece of music. When I came in here, people were following around and explaining to me, but I didn't want that. I wanted to look at it and get my impressions of the...
Yeah, but that would be, you know, that's just one way of experiencing art, you know, and it's the main way of experiencing art. You're right. I mean, it's that immediate perception, but there is the other thing. You know, as a physicist and studying physics, I had emotional responses to the physical theories, the mystery of it.
Right.
And see, I think what grabs me about this work is the mystery of how the hell did this. I mean, take a look at that blue there. There's just sunlight coming in.
Yeah.
And there is that blue sitting there, and that astounds me, and that to me is a kind of a different experience than the beauty of that blue. You know what I mean? There's the good, the true, and the beautiful, you know, if we want to get
And then the mysterious.
But what I was saying is that you have the same disadvantage I do.
Yeah.
You can't look at things without analyzing.
But I don't know. No, I can look at it.
Well,
I can look at that blue and I can say that's a gorgeous blue.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean that's what I'm saying, and but then there's another part of me. I mean, it is true, but you know, we just have these different aspects of ourselves. You know?
Right.
So to me, like this blue up here and the glow there is incredible. Now I'm wondering, like, and then I wonder, how the hell did she get that?
I don't think I did.
She didn't do it. She just let
No,
it happen.
I just noticed it, I
But
think.
you keep saying you didn't do anything, but you captured it with your artist's eye. You said that is significant.
Yeah.
And did you take that one? Did you do anything like just rotating the sculpture and have the light cast on it in a different way? No, I mean just
No, I could have.
Yeah, this is what I would call variation.
Right, no, I could have.
Yeah.
But I just don't remember that I did that. Or I would have taken another picture. If I had moved it, I would have taken another shot of it.
It looks like you had so many of these beautiful things that you know, why would you think about making one that's only slightly different from that?
Well, one of the things, I have a moment in time I wanted to share with you. I was in my studio all alone, and the sine wave sculpture was there. And blue came on it. I'm not saying it was that moment. There was more blue. It wasn't quite as intense. I know that. So I looked at it. I said, well, where did that blue come from? Because there was no blue on me. There was no blue in the studio. So I'm taking this in, and then I suddenly realized that it was the same blue as the twilight in the sky. Well, you guys, I love twilight, and the idea that my sculpture was now infused with twilight, there was a very strong emotional response there. So light, evokes emotion. So if you bear with me, this is what happened when I realized that it was twilight. So just put up with me for a minute. Just a song at twilight, when the lights are low, and the flickering shadows softly come and go. Though the heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's sweet song, comes love's old sweet song. Now, you see, my family used to sing a lot, and we'd go on Sunday afternoon drives, and we'd always follow the sun. I don't know, some pad. We'd have a picnic, but we always sang, and that's one of the songs. We'd be coming home, and we always sang that song. So I'm just, sharing that moment where the light was full of memory and significance and unpredictable, totally, yeah.
Which is one of the art experiences.
Yes.
It brings you back to certain things.
Right. So I think that Paul has got his finger on things there. I think we finished the photos maybe. Look at all this stuff going
That
on.
looks like a
there.
birthing canal to me, like,
Has
doesn't it? It looks very feminine, very
has the wings.
uterus
Yeah,
and...
I know. You could kind of get lost in there, couldn't you? I mean, you dive in.
It's excellent art.
In the three-dimensional
Well,
quality.
you see, it's the art of light, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of has some similarity to Morgan's work
Yeah,
there.
I agree.
Yeah.
You've got some things to
He
talk
gets
about.
that three-dimensional quality too, in that, just the way this does here.
So I would like to say a couple of things about well, first of all, questions about, yeah.
Susan, what is your very first farm?
Oh, would you go back, Paul, and to the one with the flame on the floor? Oh, there we go.
Which one? This one here?
There's a minute. Yeah, that's good.
You can see the texture of the floor.
Carolina,
I put with my
I
finger.
started with this one because it's the first time I was really struck with all this reflected light. And this was rather shocking. It almost looked like fire to me. So that's what got me going on pursuing more of that.
When
You see that?
did you do this? What was the date?
Oh my goodness.
This
I would say 7, 8 years ago.
Look at this flash of light. That's what Goddard was talking about when he saw, this blockage, a shadow from a cloud or something blocking, the light coming from the prism. I think that really is it, because this is a shadow here, right there.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was the sculpture.
Yeah.
So did I.
No, because you can see the texture of the wood through it, if you look closely.
I wonder what
Leonardo da Vinci would say about that.
Well, I wonder what Goddard would say. May I share a secret with you?
And Goddard was very
Started,
much on
and
that
Wendy knows about this.
that it's really about perception and response. I mean, what you're talking about, Goddard would be totally, in agreement with you, Lucy. He really, he was
I'm
really
not saying these things are right.
looking at
There's
things
not
holistically.
even a need for, in art, there's not a need for agreement.
No, there isn't.
And that's the difference between science and art. Art doesn't have to prove. And I have a few quotes. Does anybody know John Cage? Know who he was?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
of
know
course.
Cage.
He was a mentor of mine and
I've
a
seen
colleague.
him before.
And he would, some of the quotes with him, he would do his presentation, and and people just didn't understand what he was doing. They thought it was terrible and cheap. And he would say, well, where do you get your ideas? He says, well, I think them up. And well, what's your art? Well, I just notice things. And then they said, well, why do you do this? He says, it's just what I like to do.
But I also think he just loved sound. He loved sound. I saw a performance in Boulder. He came and performed it, and he hung a bunch of pot lids.
Yeah.
And then he just banged on them with like that. And you got this beautiful, he wasn't making music. He was just appreciating the sound wonderful sound, just the way we appreciate the colors.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's-
discovery.
Yeah.
Another one of his things, what I always tell, I steal it from it for my students, they say some of the best artistic ideas come from asking stupid questions and not understanding the answer.
Well, the thing about a great work of art means critics, to me, are very important because a critic will look at a work of art and give an interpretation, will say something that's completely different than mine, but it may be, but it's still right. You know what I mean? As you say, you can have many different.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the better the work of art is, the better, the more masterful the work is, the more of a masterpiece, the more different interpretations you can get. It's almost inexhaustible in its interpretations. Where maybe a lesser work of art, one or two or three, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the end, the critic is just one opinion.
One
He
opinion.
happens to get it published. I had an experience when I was an early composer. I had the same piece reviewed by the same critic 4 years apart. Terrible review, couldn't be better, same work. In the meantime, I got to know him and we had coffee and stuff together. So his critique was shaded by the friendship. And that was the last time I paid any attention to critics.
Well, I like to hear the different interpretations. I don't want them to, tell me what is good or what is bad on it. I like them to give me their impression, what the art is about.
So you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm telling us a Goethe story.
Sue was going to say something, I wonder.
Yeah, that Paul should bring in Goethe is very special to me. I have never been a scholar of Goethe. He's such a big force. It was his poetry. And the thing is that I would be just trucking along and get a piece of poetry and be so touched by it. And then find out later that Goethe wrote it. And that kept happening. And another one, I was so taken with his poem, it turned out to be the last verse of a long poem. Again, it was Goethe. So I got this thing in my mind that Goethe and I had some kind of vibrational connection. So nobody could prove that was wrong, right? And as long as I didn't tell anybody, I could just truck along with that idea. I did tell Wendy, right, Wendy? So I thought, well, maybe we had some kind of past life connection. And there's no debate on this, there's no discussion, it's just a notion I have. But that Goethe should come in now, very sweet to me. So, one of the things that occurred to me when I had the pleasure of just seeing one photograph after another, I have this idea that I'd just like to make a slideshow, a slow slideshow of it. Not say anything, maybe have a little bit of appropriate music. And just let it be on its own. Let's just look at it and let it flow. What do you think?
That's great.
It's very nice, just experience.
Good, well, thank you. I think it's time. We promised 3 to 4, it's almost 4, right? But more anyone who wants to hang out a little, find more questions, we would love that, wouldn't we, Paul? So don't feel you have to rush, but we made a commitment to 3 to 4. And I can't tell you how much fun I've had, Sharon. It's beautiful.
I was wondering one thing. I was thinking of Vinci, and I was thinking how he just saw everything as this awesome. And so he's going through this, like, my perception of it, anyway. Going through these discoveries, and because he often switched from one thing to the next thing. He didn't stay on anything very long, so they just gave me another impression. He's just wanting to experience these things. It didn't really matter that he stuck on something. So I think that was pretty, which you said earlier about experiencing this and just noticing it and then photographing it. But you didn't stay on that one very long, you went to the next one. I mean, that's kind of the connection.
I don't forget things. Like, my knot here, you guys, see? When I started diving in to knots from a book, The Genesis and the Geometry of the Labyrinth, turns out the labyrinth is a knot in some people's mind. But I learned so much about knots in nature, knots where you never ever imagine them. And that was a talk I gave 2 years ago, more. But I haven't finished with knots, you know, that's about my point. I'm on to another thing, but I
You
still
haven't
have
forgotten
fascinated.
either.
Yeah, no, and like, you know, I'm not gonna let go of that. I'll pay attention, that's what I'll do.
I'd like to say, I think art can inspire us to pay attention, and just in our daily lives. You know, you're emptying the dishwasher, or you know, you're behind, you've got to do this or that or whatever, and it's so easy to miss those magic moments. And I think that's what art can inspire you to do. You know, when I walk out of here, I may see light hitting the surface of something and just, oh my God. But if I'm thinking, oh, I gotta get home, you know, I haven't done the laundry, then I miss it. And of course we see things in our own way, but we should be so thankful that we're moved by something that it really speaks to us. And I think it can really enrich life.
Well, again, it's personal. Well, let's say about critics, I would be just as interested in hearing what anybody in this room thinks about these things as I would about a critic. Because each of you has a different reaction, and I have a different reaction than any of you.
What I'm trying to say is, art helps us have those reactions.
Oh, yeah,
And it's
exactly.
very easy to not have them. You know, you're worried about some problem you have, or, you know, whatever.
Well, it takes you away. It takes you away.
Yeah, and art is just, it's about magic. It's about seeing something that just, you know, you can't believe that it happened. And I don't,
The present.
Margaret's trying to come up with something. Did you forget it?
No, I didn't. I have plaster walls at home, and it's kind of like a golden kind of plaster on the walls. And I don't like hanging anything on my walls because I feel like that is the art. And when the light comes in, like in my front courtyard, I have aspen trees. And it's facing east, northeast, and the sun comes through, and then the wall turns into the shadows of all the aspen trees, and they're moving. And it kind of what you're saying. And then when the light, I'm sitting in my bedroom on the phone with a friend, and the light's coming in from the back now in the summer, and all of a sudden there's a wolf on my wall. Just because it's hitting at an angle that I'm seeing all the plaster is creating something. And then there was, you know, could be a number of things. But the light comes in and touches it, and especially with plaster, it's not like solid paint, so it's bringing out the colors, and it's like you become part of it. You're just, you know.
Yeah, I get
I think
it.
it's like just a really deep human thing that we've been noticing and manipulating for a really long time, you know, and so it's like just tapping into that, into those moments that are unique to the conditions and or the architecture that was created to observe a certain point in time. It's just, it's a fascinating world to play in.
Yeah. Space. See that middle one? Does it look like a wolf's face? No, back up, the other way. Good.
Go the other way?
A little more, there, right there. Doesn't that look
The
like
blue.
a wolf's face? Wolf, nobody sees it?
that's okay.
Animal.
That's okay, just because
You mean the blue? The one that's the blue?
Yeah, the blue
The
one.
blue one.
See the
Oh, I
ears?
see it, yes.
The two ears
And
and
you
the
see the eyes
fangs.
and the fangs.
Yay.
The eyes
Coming
two
down
eyes.
like a triangle.
Well, you know, it's interesting, because a lot of people will see faces. I mean, that's the first thing, you know, we'll see is on an abstract piece is a face, right? It's just what's
That's an
more
inborn.
human
Yeah.
quality.
Well, thank you for your
Thank you.
observations.
Thanks, Susan.